Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Mind of Sai Marie. Today, we are diving into the heart of the attention economy, the quiet ways technology shapes human behavior, and what it truly takes to reclaim our agency in a hyper connected world. My guest today is a former big tech insider, university recruiter, and dedicated advocate for emerging professionals. She spent over a decade inside companies like Google, Uber, Visa, and Accenture, hiring the very engineers who built the digital products that we interact with today. So now she is taking us behind the screen to help us build healthier, more conscious relationships with technology. Heather Henderson is here to discuss her book, Reclaim: How to Stop Scrolling Through Your Life and Start Living It. And I just want to say, Heather, it is an absolute joy to welcome you to the show today.
Thank you. I'm super excited to be here.
So, Reclaim is such a powerful and timely message. You famously write, "You were never the problem, you were adapting to a digital world designed to shape you." To kick things off, tell us about the moment you stood on that beach in Cabo when you first realized something deeper was happening beneath the surface of our digital habits.
Yes, so that vacation in Cabo became a catalyst for me because when I arrived to one of the most spectacular hotels that I'd ever been to, I noticed something that people were really standing with their backs to the sea. They were more interested in capturing content than actually being present in the moment. And also, I saw people scrolling through other people's vacation while missing their vacations entirely. And so that trip really became the catalyst.
Wow. So you spent years inside major tech headquarters, but then that moment came where you found yourself literally hiding behind a potted plant at Google and struggling to catch your breath, which is really such a striking image. What happened in that moment, and what does it reveal about the hidden physical and emotional toll that constant connectivity takes on high achievers?
Yeah, that moment was really my breaking point. It was a point where I had to be honest with myself. I think for me, it was a stress induced asthma attack. And what began as a very terrifying physical moment became this huge turning point as I remember going into the bathroom after and looking at myself in the mirror and not recognizing myself and saying sometimes we're just barely surviving ourselves. And so I think it is really that so many people struggle in silence and we try to save face and we try to pour ourselves into professions and responsibilities. And so I think that for me, the plant was the line in the sand that said, no longer is it just about surviving the day to day. It's like, how can I take control of this?
The conversation around digital health shifted dramatically early this year following the historic March 2026 Meta and Google verdicts regarding platform design and user harm. So, as someone who finished writing Reclaim before those verdicts were handed down, what went through your mind when you heard the news, and what do those rulings confirm about how technology was built to capture our attention?
I think my first thought was finally. I think that the next thought was, yes, design matters. And I think that it really is the fact that this book is not in response to the verdict. It just made the verdict impossible to ignore. So I think that it really acknowledged that design does influence behavior and that this is a conversation we should have been having a long time ago.
At the core of your work is a single transformative question: did I choose this, or was it chosen for me? You talk about how technology influences our choices in small, quiet ways. So, how does this question help us step back and recognize where our agency actually lives?
I think choice is a very interesting piece that we often forget about. And I think choice is actually where freedom begins. And so I think for me, it's thinking about technology is not the enemy, it's unconscious living. And so that's what I mean by the small ways. When we have notifications and recommendations and personalizations, these are very tiny, tiny moments and decisions that accumulate until the suggestions often become desires, or we aren't even really feeling like we're in control of our life anymore because these small micro moments end up shaping our experience.
So many people think putting down the phone is just about willpower, but you explain that reaching for a device is often meeting several distinct emotional needs. Can you break down your seven digital regulator archetypes and why you prefer thinking about attention as a set of adjustable dials rather than a simple on and off switch?
Yeah, so the seven digital regulators came to me because, like many people, I felt like I needed to understand myself more. And if you've ever taken a one of those cosmopolitan quizzes back in the day, that is what this is kind of about mainly. And so this framework really helps people. So going through them really quickly, a watcher is really somebody who regulates through information. It says, like, if I stay informed, I stay safe. The scorekeeper, this is somebody who regulates through sports. You probably have somebody in your life who like knows every sport score, watches sports time on replay. They really want intensity without personal stakes. Then you have a companion, and that's someone who regulates through noise. And so that's somebody who feels very uncomfortable in silence. And then an escapist is somebody who regulates through binging TV. That is me. And that's really saying, like, I need everything to stop for a while. And then the reassure is somebody who regulates through constant contact. And so they need to be connected to feel steady. And those people often really lean into like social media. A performer is somebody who regulates through posting. And so this might be somebody who being seen helps me feel real. And so those are the people who are constantly posting, and that makes them feel a little bit more inside. And then a clarifier is somebody who regulates through research and AI. So this is also something that I relate to, but it's if I can make sense of this, I'll feel better. And so the main thing about these regulators is this isn't necessarily 100% like a personality type. It's not something where you're one. You could have multiple of these. And so it's really a way to explore through an archetype to say, yeah, I see myself in that. And then giving people ways to find healthy ways to work within their archetype.
Ambitious professionals often fall into the trap of what you term growth theater, looking like they are evolving on screen while burning out in real life. How do we spot when we're engaging in growth theater, and how does your one on one rule serve as a practical circuit breaker?
Yes. So, what I found is that we consume endless self improvement content instead of actually doing the harder work of applying what we have already learned. So, I think sometimes for us, especially with ambitious people, high achievers, we tend to want all the information. And so, what I find is that we confuse learning with progress. And we feel like when we consume more, we feel productive. And that's actually your brain tricking you. And so what I've found is if you find that you're like jumping from course to course, you're not finishing books, you're reading something really cool, but you never actually take aligned action in your life to apply it, that's where it becomes growth theater. And so I have a 1-to-1 rule that helps people where it's as simple as this: apply one idea before you consume another. Because I really feel like growth comes from action and not accumulation. And so it's kind of like having a full library of information you never use.
I love that. I always kind of said the same thing. You know, you can learn a lot of things, but if you never apply them, then it doesn't really actually make any difference. So that is on point with a lot of things I've experienced myself. And I just wanted to highlight that before I go into this next question. So you write that fantasy isn't wealth or luxury anymore, it's presence. And that presence is attention made visible. In a world full of noise and constant pinging, why has unhurried, undivided attention become the ultimate luxury?
So I think it's because attention is our greatest resource and we are constantly having it pulled in different directions. And so when you are competing with some of the most persuasive technology that has ever been seen, it does become a luxury. And I think really giving someone our full attention is one of the clearest ways that we can show love and value and connection. And I think that that's what I really want to give is it's not just that to give to readers and to give to the world. It's like not just attention. It affects your relationships, your choices, and your ability to be human in a world that is more and more becoming more technological. And so this is kind of reclaiming our humanity.
So, you have a chapter in the book that serves as a love letter to influencers, reminding them that who we follow shapes who we become and that our most sacred memories are often the ones no one else ever sees online. If reclaim were a message in a bottle sent out to someone feeling overwhelmed, distracted, or disconnected today, what is the single truth you hope stays tucked in their heart?
For me, it always comes back to the power of choice, in that the most meaningful voices don't capture our attention, they help us reconnect with ourselves. And so the people we invite and the ideas we invite and the technologies we invite into our lives shape how we think, feel, and also show up in the world. And so I think remembering that the choice is yours and asking that question, did I choose this or was this chosen for me? That's where your agency returns. And I think that's really the heartbeat.
Heather, thank you so much for sharing your story, your insider wisdom, and this essential roadmap with us today. Reclaim is a breathtaking reminder that freedom lives in the moment that we recognize the choice is still ours. So, to everyone listening, you can find Heather Henderson's book, Reclaim How to Stop Scrolling Through Your Life and Start Living It, on her website at iamheatherh.com or wherever books are sold. And again, I will have that in the show notes for easy linking, and you can find it there. Remember, as always, the mind is the most important story we'll ever tell, and thank you for listening to the Mind of Sai Marie.